heal without actually looking at the essentials.
Exactly.
So when we were talking about this, James and I, we were really looking forward to have go through the health fundamentals, like kind of an owner's manual. We don't come into the world with an instruction manual that tells us, you should go this way or do this or don't do this. So when planning all this, we start with, especially with breath, and it's a topic that I've been working on for quite some years now. I've been doing workshops many places, and that's why I'm convinced that it's the first thing people should hear about before going into exercise or yoga or any other thing, even into eating, even into nutrition. Because oxygen, as we're gonna be talking on this episode, it's the essential element that is running and controlling our lives in so many different ways.
Yeah, I believe it. And I remember the first time because I did your routine quite a bit of time. There's a nice routine you showed me about breath, and I did it with Alex, my girlfriend, for the first time once. And she looked at me and she's like, "James, your exercise is just breathing. It can't be an exercise, Or when are we gonna do things?" I'm like, "This is the exercise."
Yeah, because we're so used to that we should be doing something, and it should be something difficult or a strange technique that we're moving our body or different, but it's so simple and so essential. And if we would do just 5 minutes of breath a day, it would change us completely.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex just says she thought it was yoga. And that's what's funny about this. And I got to say something interesting while we're waiting for the thing to start and for people to arrive. I teach in a Catholic school board, and they don't let us teach yoga to our kids because they consider yoga to be a religion, not a series of exercises. I can teach them karate, I can teach them, sports, whatever, but not yoga, because yoga is a religion, it seems. I don't know if that's true, but sometimes it makes me wonder if it is or not. And I don't know, Pepe, what do you think? Do you think yoga is like, just an exercise routine, or is sometimes a mental process? I know you know a lot about it.
Well, it has gotten into a point that it has turned into a big mess, especially when the West started to adopt most of its
Oh,
philosophy. But because in some places it just turns out to be just fancy movements and stretching and doing things like this, but it's a complete system that has been used for thousands of years that showed people how to maintain their body properly. And actually, breath is part of the yogic philosophy. They call it pranayama. That means control of the breath.
oh yeah.
It's it's a complete set of like a separate set of instructions that teaches how you should manage your lungs and your breath capacity
Wow.
before actually going into movements or asanas that they call.
Wow.
So
I've got
so
chills.
they're so specialized
So amazing.
in breathing that they have a different breath for different ailments. If you want to warm your body up, if you want to cool your body down, if you need to speed up your digestion, if you want to change the pH of your body. So there are so many different ways of breathing that
Whoa, whoa,
they've
whoa.
been talking about it so much.
Did you just say that you could change the pH of your body by your breath? I have issues with my pH. I know for a fact. And so if I braid, what? It's insane. It's so cool.
Yeah, that's one of the things we're gonna talk about. The most important ingredient to change the pH of the body is the oxygen and carbon dioxide quantities in your bloodstream, and that's controlled by how you breathe and how much you breathe in or how much you breathe out.
Wow.
Before actually knowing which foods you can take to control the pH of your body, you should look into your breath. But that's something we're gonna be going through.
Okay.
So do you think we should start?
I think so. I think we should start. Thank you for being here, everybody. We've got 11 participants. That's wonderful. Um, and since I said that we wanted some participation a bit more today, I'm gonna start off with a question to everybody, not to Pepe. Hey, you would expect me to ask a question directly to Pepe right here, but no. Not Pepe. You guys, what I'd like to know is, was there, we're going to talk about breath, about breathing, about bringing air in your lungs and filling them and getting them out. And I kind of want to know if there was a moment in your life where you realized that breath was more important than you thought, where it wasn't just an automatic thing. Was there a moment like that where you were like, oh, like breath is more important, or breath has always been something you didn't take for granted? I remember the first, if I can put you somewhere to think about what I'm talking about is, I was trying to touch my toes. You know how you can bend over and try to touch your toes? And I wasn't able to do it. And then somebody just looked at me and he said, James, you're allowed to breathe, And I was like, what do you mean? And I was here trying to touch my toes, and I was going to get there, and I never got there. And then they just said, breathe, James. And I went, okay.
It also happens when people are exercising or doing weights. They're trying to lift something and it's like, it's not like a fluid thing. You're not aligning yourself with how you're taking energy in, and yeah, that's one of the good thing. So
anybody, you could just raise your hand on your camera if you want to share. Somebody. If yeah, Tony, let's do it.
I do the same thing. If I'm stressed, I hold my breath completely. I need to sometimes realize then, okay, you got to breathe. But I've done it all my life. I breathe very, very shallow, or just stop breathing and try and work through it. So it's crazy.
Yeah, imagine being in stress and then not receiving the oxygenation required to de-stress. That must just be like a vicious cycle of eternal stress.
Yeah, because that takes us to an important question. Did anyone teach you how to breathe, or how did you learn how to breathe? If you actually think about it, how did you learn how to breathe?
It's just automatic. Nobody teaches you how to breathe.
It's something. And when did you start to breathe? When was your?
Wasn't there a slap in the back?
Yeah, when I got a slap in the backside.
And the doctor receive you and give you hit you. And you stay right.
It's like, breathe, you idiot! Pa!
And from then on, it just started to be a process that it's by itself, and it's something that we also learn by imitation. We see our parent, our father or mother, and we see, that's how I should breathe, and that's how shallow I should breathe, that's how deep I should breathe, and we really never take that into account, since it's something we start doing when we're born, and something that finishes up when we leave this body. We never take that time to really think what's going on with that thing. It's something that's taken for granted. And I think what this pandemic has taught us, that breath is the most important thing. It's something that attacks our breathing. You're not able to breathe with this virus. So going back into the roots of all this, it's going to really take us to a different level, mentally and physically, and in all aspects of our lives. Someone else that remembers when was the first time that they paid attention to the breathing?
Maybe anybody. Alexandra?
I actually realized the way that I was breathing when I was running for a half marathon. So I was practicing, and every time I would run, there were some times that there would be like a hill or more difficult pathways. And I realized that I needed to really be careful to not be so exhausted at the end of my training, just because I was like, if I need to run 21 kilometers, I need to have enough energy to just like complete that challenge, and also like be able to breathe correctly so that I'm not exhausted after like 2 kilometers.
Yeah.
Great. That's awesome. Well, that's a good time to learn when to breathe. I got to tell you, I never actually learned. I'm still confused on how to breathe still today, but we're figuring it out as we can. But I must admit, I still think that there's a lot of place to get better at this whole understanding of breathing. And, the Pepe's got some nice imagery for us today. I don't know if he wants us to show anything, but he's given me, guys, you can't believe this.
If I can add anything about the
yes,
breathing.
Do it.
You know, me, what I thought most about breathing was when I needed to get something out of my body.
Interesting.
If I was sick or I needed to reject anything from my body, the breathing was always my first method. It's to breathe until it comes out.
It's like
Are you talking about childbirth, Celine?
It's because I had cesarean, so I wasn't, but it can be other holes also.
Other holes. Okay.
That's funny. Oh, Eva, welcome to the party.
But you know what I mean, though.
Yeah.
Like
So,
go.
yeah, you know what you mean. We're gonna talk about that too. It's very important. It's a very important topic right there. So, in getting to
Oh,
know
little
our
bit.
breath better, one of the things that's essential, because if you usually go to a checkup or to a doctor, they usually check your heart rate. They tell us, oh yeah, you have a 54, 54 breaths per beats per second, or 60 or 70, or you check
Yeah.
your heart rate. But a very important piece of information that you should know, it's how often do I breathe per minute. So it's a measure that you should have, or you should have written down, to know if you can improve your breath, if you're having a proper breathing mechanism, or you're too slow or too fast. So if I ask you, do you know how many breaths per minute do you take? Could you answer that question?
No,
No?
definitely no.
12?
I have no idea.
Because
Yes, because I did it
me.
with you last year.
Yeah, and did you remember what your breath, or you already forgot?
No, I think it's like it was 15 or 16.
Okay. So
Is it true?
Yeah, I think it
yeah,
was Celine.
it can be, because and in this topic, a Russian doctor started noticing how very sick patients with that they were laying down on their beds, their breathing pattern was very fast and very shallow. You could even see people that were breathing 40 or 60 times per minute. So I mean, imagine someone being laying down on their bed and
That's a lot. Yeah.
they're having a hard time to get oxygen in and do that gases exchange in the body happening. So the faster you're breathing, the more energy expenditure you're having,
Mm.
and the less efficient your breath actually is.
Mm.
So an important exercise that I would like for you to do now is to put your hands in your belly, and we're gonna count 1 minute to see how many times per minute you're breathing. Having that number is really important, because with that number we can work on. We can have a no up, then I should train with this kind of breath, or I should train with this kind of breath. So if
One
everyone
second.
could just place your hands on the belly,
I'm
and we're
gonna.
gonna start counting. I have a timer here. We're gonna
I can
start
make a
that
countdown
in.
happen on the screen here, Pepe, if you want.
Okay, we're gonna have a 1 minute countdown to figure out what our breathing rate is. Do you have it ready,
Yeah,
James?
just give me a sec. I'm gonna get it organized. All right. It's all right. I'm gonna tell me when to start it. I'll start it.
So everyone ready? Just we're gonna start counting, each one of us, our own breath, and how many times we're gonna breathe in 1 minute. Okay.
All right. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay.
Perfect. 15.
15. What about you guys? If you could write on the chat screen your breath per minute, so we can all have we can use it as a group dynamic.
Yeah, it's not breathes in and breathes out. It's both, right? It's a breathe in, a breathe out.
Yeah, it's in, exhale, that's 1. Inhale, exhale, that's 2.
Eva, 8? Unbelievable. Like what you breathe eight that means like 10 seconds of breath process?
Yeah,
4
I
seconds?
don't know. I made actually a list counting, and that's only 8. But maybe I was focusing to breathe really deep.
Yeah. She knows the trick. She just wants to be
Yeah,
straight A's to
Well, it shows, when you get to be with the master Pepe all the time, for sure you have 8.
exactly. He counts my breathing all the time.
You're
Okay, so
sleeping.
we have Cristina has 14, Walter has 11.
6? Desconocido? Well, I don't know your name. Sorry.
Alejandro.
Alejandra.
I have 16.
16.
I
Like
have 16.
16 tones.
And there, 36, I think that's too much. I think it was a wrong
Probably
reading.
doubled it. He probably cut in out.
Okay, so now we have that number, because maybe it's not that precise. You'll get to measure it in a more accurate way later. But imagine a zebra being chased by a lion. How fast do you think its breath's gonna be if it's running, trying to save its life? So it's a very fast and very agitated kind of breath.
Yeah.
So coming to a slower breath and a more calm breath will make your system be in a calmer and in a steadier.
Well, so this brings me to an interesting question for you, Pepe. You're saying the zebra is going, like faster, his breath is faster, and when he's calmer, his breath is slower. Could we empower our body to be more energetic by breathing differently? And can we empower our body to do the opposite, to calm down by breathing differently?
Exactly, and that's going to be the final conclusion of this topic, because it's owning our breath. And when you start owning your breath and knowing that you're in control over it, you can use it for different purposes. Like you're gonna be doing something that needs energy, you start doing faster breaths. If you want to be in a meditative state, you start controlling it and you bring it to a slower state. And when one of the first questions you said about yoga, that it has a complete set of instructions with pranayama, they started studying this, and that's why they have different exercises. There's a breath called Kapalbhati, where you energize and bring energy up the spine all the way toward your head, that you start doing breath like this. It's a very fast kind of breathing that changes how your whole body chemistry and your state of mind starts doing.
Wow.
So that's why we started with this instruction. It's finding what's your breathing rate right now. And because it's like finding how fast you're driving your car. If you're breathing fast, you're having your car with the pedal all the way in. If you're doing it slow breaths, you're going slowly. You're enjoying the ride. You don't have any rush to get anywhere. You're very, very calm. So it's finding that. And the thing is that now we're talking of conscious control of the breath. But as we know, breath is something that happens without actually even thinking about it. And it's the unconscious part of the breath that actually controls how we're walking or going through life.
Okay.
Because it's when you're just sitting down on your desk, you don't know if you're breathing deep or you're breathing slow or you're breathing fast. It's just happening by itself. And it's bringing this awareness or this consciousness to how we're actually breathing. So that's the interesting part, because it's not something that happens only unconsciously, but we're gonna start bringing it forward to our conscious mind, so we can have and reap benefits from it.
Well, I love that, and I love how you say that's the interesting part, like the rest isn't interesting, Pepe. In a certain sense, I think that this is really interesting, and there's something that we talked about over the years, how, bringing things that are unconscious to a conscious understanding makes you, all in all, have a better life. It was like the moon. When we met, I told you that it was all bullshit. That if somebody told you that the moon did something to your body, it was not true. And it was you, Pepe, who told me that can't be true, James. Like, you're made of water. Look at the water. It's always affected by the moon. It's not possible that you believe that the moon doesn't affect you, And over time, I started realizing that you were absolutely right. And now that I was conscious about the reality that something affected me and the people around me, it made me see it better, and it made me understand how I could not use it, how I could use it in a certain sense, how I could use breath or the moon or, other things that subconsciously kind of affect us, but we don't really know. And so this is what I love the most about this, is the fact that we're learning to understand ourselves as humans better. We're learning to understand, how we live, simply enough, how to sleep. Like you say, slow down your breath. Since I've met you now, when I want to sleep, all I do is I go, okay, let's go. Deep breaths, nonstop, deep breaths. And, sometimes it's unbelievable, like 5 deep breaths, bam, I'm sleeping,
Yeah. So, and when, just what you said, bringing things into our conscious mind, that's very important. And we're going to go to the bare basics of our, what builds our body, because we're going down to the element forms, because we've been formed by different kind of elements. Because if we could share the slide number 3, James.
Absolutely. Slide number 3 coming up.
Because if you just look into our body, into the most single components, we're just made of different atoms of different elements. As you know, do you know the periodic table? That's the image we're going to share right now. We have all the different kind of elements inside our body, and each one works and does different functions. We have sodium and potassium and nitrogen and carbon and oxygen. So we're ultimately made up of all this combination of elements that are all around us. They're elements that are in the planet, in the universe, and we have different quantities of all these elements. But if you were to guess which is the most abundant element in the human body, which one would you say?
I have no idea.
Water.
Maybe somebody in the crowd
is most abundant in our body.
Water.
We're talking. That's a molecule. We're going to, because water is H2O. It's hydrogen and oxygen, but we're talking about nitrogen, carbon, borium, gold. Which element?
Then oxygen, no?
Oxygen. Yeah, we're gonna see. Can you share number 4, James? I think it's
absolutely share number 4. There we go.
But where do we see it?
On my screen? No. Oh, we don't see it live. I'm sorry. Here it is, everybody. My God, I made a mistake. Sometimes I know how to work. Sometimes I don't.
Okay, if you could zoom in on this image, please.
Yes, I can try. Anyway.
Okay. These are the components of the human body. We are 65% oxygen molecules.
Wow.
65%. The rest is 18% carbon, 9.5% hydrogen, and the rest is nitrogen. The rest of the elements, we're talking about trace elements like sodium, potassium, copper, and all the other ones. But oxygen is the foundation of our whole system. And it's what gets exchanged in our breathing. We're constantly exchanging oxygen for carbon dioxide, and it's what brings energy all around. So that's why we're going into the really, 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 really basics of our nature. We're composed of this element mostly, and we very rarely take into account everything that happens all around. Okay?
This is a little mind-blowing to me. Like, it means that, the air around us is oxygen, and we are 65% oxygen, meaning like this is making me wonder how much of us is part of everything. You know, like this idea, there's a word in English I really love, and I don't know if it's the same in Spanish or in French, but it's holistic. You know, this idea that everything is interconnected and that we don't really understand how life is because there's so much interconnection. Telling me that my body is 65% oxygen makes me wonder how much we are interconnected to the air around us, right?
Yeah, we're gonna see it, because that oxygen is not something that is fixed. It's something that's going in and out. You're completely exchanging all this oxygen with the environment, with the plants, with the animals, with other people that surround you, and breath is what really makes all this exchange happen.
Wow.
So that's why the importance of it. We go on to the next slide, James.
Absolutely, yeah.
So as how is the energy produced in the body? Because this oxygen is going in and carbon dioxide is going out. Because then if we jump from the elements, we jump into our cells. We have trillions of cells in our body. Each one of these cells needs oxygen to survive and oxygen to do all its metabolic functions. So it depends on how much or how well we're breathing to distribute all this oxygen into our different cells. So when we're feeling drained and low on energy, mostly it's not because we're lacking food or something else. We're lacking movement of these oxygen molecules all around our body. So doing a proper breath, it's actually what's gonna open us up. If you go to the next one, please.
Absolutely.
So here we see a representation of three very important molecules for the human system. That is the CO2 molecule or carbon dioxide, the oxygen molecule, that it's two molecules of oxygen joined together, and the water molecule. So what actually happens is that when we're breathing in, two oxygen molecules go into our body, and then it mixes with a carbon molecule, and that's how we generate energy.
Wow.
Okay, so it's a little bit of chemistry here, but it's important to understand a bit of this concept. An easy way of understanding it, it's like the car. Gasoline from our car, or diesel, I don't know what kind of fuel your car uses. It uses this fuel, mixes it with oxygen, and that produces energy, that produces that fire. So it's like combustion, or like when we turn up a fire, we use coal or we use wood, we light up with ignition, and then the oxygen mixes with this carbon, and that's when we produce energy. That's the same thing that happens with our cells. So we mix the carbon that we take from food, that's number 9.
Yeah.
The carbon that we mix from food, we mix it with the oxygen we're breathing in, and that creates, as a byproduct, it creates a carbon dioxide molecule, 2 water molecules, and ATP, that is energy. That's the energy that keeps all the energy working to the body.
Well,
Okay.
I'm trying to understand all this, Pepe, but you know what I'm understanding is I'm understanding that you thought about it way more than I did. And, it shows that there's some science behind what you're talking about,
Yeah, that is bringing that to the conscious part, because all this magic and all this science is happening every second in our body, and it all depends on how well we're breathing and how well we're inhaling and how well we're exhaling. Because this brings us to an interesting thing, because it's not only the oxygen you're bringing into the body, but it's that waste product, that it's a carbon dioxide that is coming out of your body. We pay attention sometimes to the inhale part, but we don't exhale properly. We're sometimes retaining excess of waste product gases inside our cells or inside our tissues. So that's very, very important to start understanding this.
Yeah,
Any questions about this little chemistry explanation from anyone? Or any comments?
Well, maybe somebody has something to say. It's like I said, my worst class in all of my life was chemistry, so for sure I've got some work to do to try to understand all this stuff. But if anybody has
I
some
just wanted
questions,
to ask, maybe sometimes carbon is also like when we see these schemes, we look at it like something that is not really good, but maybe I want to ask you, Pepe, if carbon is also a good thing that sometimes we can stay in a little bit and then throw it out and don't look at it as a wrong thing, no?
Yeah, it's not wrong. It's finding that balance, because we're talking about the acidity in the body and the alkalinity of the body. It all depends on this balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen in the body, because it brings the exchange in the cells to actually happen. And it's not that, it's just finding the exact what we need in a certain moment. Because I don't know if you've heard of Wim Hof. It's this guy that does these breathing exercises, and he can be in the snow and so there are times where we need more carbon in the blood to keep that energy, to keep that heat inside. Sometimes we need the complete opposite. But starting to get in touch with our breath, we can start actually discerning and knowing when we need this or when we need this, instead of being just something that is happening by itself. It's knowing when we need a little bit more of this and a little bit more of the other thing. The same with food, is knowing when you need to rest a little bit from eating too much and when you can load up and you can charge. It's not that it's always this or it's always this. It's finding that middle point where we're not always going to black or white. It's not that dual. It's finding that middle ground.
unbelievable. This is mind blowing, Pepe. I've never. This is new to me, right? We've talked a lot about this, but this is all new to me, and my mind is blown. I'm a bit awestruck. I don't know what to say. Wow.
Yeah. So, but this is the chemical part of the breath that was important to put into the front, because finally breathing is like the science of element transformation, or the element combination and energy conversion. We're joining oxygen and carbon and creating energy, creating heat.
Yeah.
So it's like a certain kind of alchemy that's teaching us how to use the disposable, the available energy in our system. Okay. So we're gonna go now to number 11.
This one?
Yeah. Because we go now to an important part of the physiognomy of our body. Because in this little animation, we see what happens when we start breathing properly, because the body starts getting atrophied and the ribcage stops expanding and stops actually growing or extending. And that's what happens when we don't actually take full breaths. In the city, we usually just take little amounts and never actually take the full capacity. So if I ask you, when was the last time or the last day that you actually took a very, very, very long and deep breath when you expanded your lungs to a full chest capacity? How many times a day do you do that?
Just before bed.
Yeah? What about the other people here?
Every morning.
Yeah? You do like a very, very big breath? How many of them? Alexandra says in the morning too.
I know, I do like 30.
Nice.
Nice.
Inhale and exhale.
You're a smart man.
I follow you.
So if we go to the next one, James.
Absolutely. But I want to talk about this. This is a very telling animation to me. It makes me. It kind of makes me realize why, when I'm at the end of my breath, sometimes I feel like if I feel my whole rib cage.
That you hit like a wall or what? You hit
I feel like my lung could grow, but it's like if they stop, and I never really got it. But this little GIF you've got going makes me realize that there is something bigger than just my lungs being able to grow. There's my body that can also stop it.
Yeah, so that's when the question pops up, that is does posture affect breathing? Does our muscles affect breathing? It's very important that you start realizing that how you adapt your body to different things you do during the day will directly affect how you're exchanging all these gases in your body. And you can see it with older people, because usually older people start getting in postures that start getting stuck, and you don't get space in the rib cage. We see it in the next slide.
Sorry, Tony's having some issues, and I don't like that he's having issues.
I have no screen. I mean, I keep losing you. I lost you there several minutes ago.
So you can't see us anymore?
No, I can hear you.
But
I
maybe you
see
can
your-
rotate the screen.
Sorry?
And maybe you rotate your phone. You know, I can see you're holding your phone straight. What if you rotated it to like you're holding it vertically? No, like move it horizontally. You know, like let me.
Yeah,
you know, you're
no.
holding. You can't see me, so.
I can't. No, I'm moving. No, I can see somebody else now.
There is a way to like pin people. Sometimes maybe you pin somebody by mistake, and if you pin, the wrong person. Anyway, Tony, as long as you hear us, that's the important part. Which side do you want me at, Pepe?
Sorry?
As long as you hear us, probably that's the important part.
12.
Okay. Is this it? No.
No, next one, 12.
This one.
Yeah. So we're talking about this, the lung capacity on our lungs, because the lungs can only expand all the way up until the rib cage permits or allows. And we usually see when people go to the gym or when people work out, it's always working or the chest or the arms or the glutes and having nice butt and all this. But here we see the muscles that are the most important of your human anatomy are all around your lungs and your chest. That's why we have the rib cage to protect it all. And we see that intercostal muscles that are in between your ribs, each one of them. It's very important to keep them as flexible and as healthy as possible, because otherwise you cannot expand and contract. It's really taking the time to open up and close, because that's what allows for the gases exchange to actually happen. So besides that, then the other muscle that is very important, it's the diaphragm that we're going to talk also in the next. Can you pass on the next one just really quickly to show the difference between inhalation and exhalation? Yeah. So in this one, we see what happens when we inhale. Certain muscles are activated, and when we exhale, other muscles are activated. So it's like on and off, like a wave going up and down, that different muscles are activated. But depending on which postures we're using the most, they get atrophied or they get misused. Okay. So if I were going to ask you, because this is also an important question, starting to talk about the rib cage. How many hours of your day are you sitting down? How many hours of the day are you standing up? How many hours of the day are you laying down? Are you on like in a laying position? Because that changes a lot the disposition of your rib cage and all the breathing apparatus. So that's the second piece of information or the second data that's important, besides the first one that was how many breaths per minute do you have? How many hours per day are you sitting down? That also tells us a lot about our rib cage and how it's going on.
So let's write this down. How many breaths per minute? And I'm here at my 16 or 15. Me and my mom, the same number. It's because we got the same breath system. Now, the next one was how much time do you spend sitting, standing, and lying?
Yeah, or laying down.
laying.
Because if you could jump to number 36 real quick just to show to
36. I'm gonna have to go quickly, but here I am. 36.
to stress the point out. Okay, so imagine you're sitting like this all day in this position. Look at the rib cage. Look at what's happening all the chest. How deep or how well do you think you can breathe in that position?
I don't think you can breathe very well in that position.
It's a very superficial breath and a very inefficient way of breathing. And what actually happens in this position is the muscles that we saw, the intercostal muscles that the name implies, the muscles that are in between the ribs, they start getting atrophied. What does that mean? Those muscles can no longer expand and contract. They only stay one single length. So even if you wanted to do deep breaths because you needed more oxygen for healing or for energy or for whatever, your anatomy doesn't allow it. It's all just collapsed and it doesn't permit that to actually happen. And especially when with diseases of the respiratory tract, not being able to pull in as much oxygen as you can, you're in a great disadvantage. So that's very important to keep as open and as well functioning all these muscles that go into the breathing mechanism.
I know Alex had a joke that she told me she had this question for you, Pepe, from this morning. You want to say it out loud, Alex?
But it's not a joke. It's really for women who have bigger breasts and tends to actually stand like this because you tend to move forward then backward. Do you have any tips on how you can actually stand correctly without having the back that hurts and be able to breathe the way that you're teaching us?
Well, big breaths is a very popular topic, not only here but in other things. Usually, when you said when standing or when sitting?
When sitting.
Sitting, yes.
Well, in that way, it's recommended using some kind of support.
Oh. We got a little bit of a disconnection here. Let's hope he'll be back in a second. We'll see what's happening. Maybe he's been talking.
Yeah.
Oh, Pepe, we lost you for a second, and we know it was you. It was your connection. Because we also lost Eva at the same second. So.
No, she.
It's both of you.
She's on a different connection. So to Alexandra's question, it's really important to strengthen the muscles of the back that will counteract the excessive weight on the front. So it has to do with strengthening the rhomboid muscles and the trapezius so that you can hold on that extra weight. Because if we go back to number 12, James.
Yes, no problem. 12. Here we go.
Okay, and then
poor Pepe. Something's happening to his poor internet. You know, it was going pretty well, right? We had this is 2 hours and 51 minutes of Pepe and James, and it's the first. I think that's really rad that we did so long without any connection issues.
Next one.
I will
Pepe,
never talk about big breast anymore.
It's clear that
how Pepe reacts.
As soon as you talked about big breast, Google got into it. They wanted to know more about our conversation, so they hacked into our conversation. Guys, I doubt that that's possible.
I knew I should have talked about big breasts.
Yeah.
Don't say it again. We're gonna have another complication with internet.
So if you go to the next one, James.
14 here.
Yeah, because I was telling you, Alexandra, because that's people that have that big breast and that have that extra weight, they need to pay more attention on the back muscles and strengthening those back muscles so you can support all that weight on the front. So it has to do with a more personalized workout where you work the rhomboid muscles, the trapezius, and all the latissimus dorsi that we see it on the back, because you can see all that attachments of these muscles right there that go all the way into the rib cage, and that's like maintaining everything in an upright position.
I think, Pepe, we finally figured out how to make money. We have to make a training regimen called the big breast training, and I think it's gonna work for us. It's just gonna make tons of money. Easy marketing too.
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
Kind of the same problems have the people that is fat, no? Like very
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
gut.
Yeah.
Not
Exactly.
only also men have a problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. That's true, Walter.
So-
I didn't think about that one, but if you have a big gut, you are pushed forward. That's 100% true. I didn't think about that.
Not only that, because now we're gonna. That's a very good question, a very good commentary, Walter. Because we're gonna go right into the diaphragm. That it's so important in the breathing pattern, because it's the most important muscle, I would say, next to the heart, are the ones that are controlling our life. So the diaphragm is all this sheet of muscle that is on the lower part of the rib cage. We go to the next, James. We see it from underneath, and it's the main pump of the breathing mechanism. It's what actually goes that makes the inhale and the exhale actually work. The next one too.
Oops.
And here we see how the heart and the lungs are part of the same things, the same organ. If they're doing the exact same work, they work together. They cannot be separated. But in our medical standpoint, the heart has always taken precedence over the breath, but I think it should be the other way around.
Wow.
The heart only pumps what the oxygen is giving them. Without the proper working of the lungs, the heart would be completely useless, because you cannot be distributing the oxygen or taking the carbon dioxide out. And if you jump to the next one again, here we see the proximity of the diaphragm and the heart. They're one and the same. And
Oh yeah.
way bigger, but it doesn't get that much attention. The heart is getting all the highlight. But without the proper working diaphragm, the heart wouldn't be able to do anything. You see how close it is? It's right next to each other.
Yeah.
So every time you're doing a deep breath, every time you're breathing properly, you're helping your heart, you're massaging your heart, you're letting it work in a slower fashion, you're letting it work without extra stress. So by actually activating your diaphragm, you're letting your heart work less. You're not giving all the work to that organ. You're distributing that extra charge in a much larger muscle, and you're letting it work with much ease.
That's amazing, Pepe. Like, that you've always told me how much the diaphragm was important, but I never noticed how connected it was. Like it is literally just right there under, like, that's unbelievable.
Yeah, so if you jump to 22, we can also see a very important relationship of.
Yeah. 22, here we are. Tic-tac-toe?
We lost him.
Yeah.
Of the diaphragm. Okay, so also look at what happens right there. The diaphragm is the structure that divides all the respiratory and the heart and all the lower organs. Every time you're breathing, you're massaging your lower organs. You're giving movement to your organs. You're giving movements to your intestines. You're giving movements to the stomach. You're giving movement to all this thing. And that's where what Walter said is very important. A person that has a big stomach has a very deficient diaphragm that's not doing this work properly. And if you go back one slide, please. People that are having a hard time with constipation and that cannot go to the bathroom properly are people that are not breathing properly, because it's actually the movement of the diaphragm that it's allowing for all this peristalsis or all this movement of the bowels or all this movement of the intestine to actually happen. Because imagine that diaphragm going up and down, up and down. If it's not going all the way down, it's not allowing for the intestine to actually move. So that's why we're going again to say that the breath is essential in every part.
No, it's not.
Proper breath.
I'm sorry, Pepe, you missed. I was making a joke. I was saying I pointed here and I said, "Is this Eva?" You know. Sorry, I ruined your little explanation there, Pepe.
I'm way prettier than this girl.
That's so true. All right, hey Pepe, I don't want to cut down this conversation, but we are down to 2 minutes here left to this conversation. I don't want it to take more people time on this Sunday. I'm already so happy that you all logged on and spent your Sunday morning, and some of you maybe Sunday afternoon, with us. You know, it is a decision, you know, to choose to come to one of these things, and I respect all of you for showing up. I don't know, Pepe seems really, you know, crashed for some reason, but he'll probably be back in a second. Look at him, completely pixelized. You know, I don't know what happened here, but it's life. But if I am to conclude on one note here, you know, Pepe, you're back. Great news. I think that one thing that I like the most about all this, and to come back to that word I was talking about earlier, holistic, you know, I don't know how you say that in Spanish. En français, c'est holistique. But, you know, it means this idea that everything is interconnected, you know, and you just showed to us how the diaphragm, you know, is interconnected to our heart, which is interconnected to our lungs, and which is also interconnected to our intestine. So you're showing to us that there's a lot of things that are interconnected in our body. And if I can even push that even to another limit, if you look at this picture here, you can see that, isn't it strange how this heart looks like a forest? You know, the roots, the trees, the branches, you know, and isn't that what gives us oxygen? You know, like, isn't it strange how our whole world is interconnected? It's not just our lungs, our diaphragm. The world outside looks like how we are made. We're all one, right? We're all together. And I think that's really beautiful. And we have to start, you know, by breathing and by taking a conscious decision, right? When we breathe.
So Estela is asking, what's the perfect or the optimal number of breath? Well, each person has to start in slowly, but there's no magic number for anyone. So the perfect number, if there was a perfect number, is under 10 breaths per minute. The lower you go, the better. But again, as Walter stated before, depends on the activity you're gonna do. If you're gonna go running or if you're gonna do exercise, your breathing rate is gonna go up because your muscles are going to demand more oxygen. So that number is going to change. And knowing that we can decide the breathing rate of our that we're gonna use in every moment, that just gives us an extra liberty. That just makes us free in a certain way. Because when you decide how much energy, how much input, how much output, you're getting into a free state. You're deciding what you're doing with your exchange to all what's out there. So since we're running a bit late, I just want to remark some things before closing. So the first thing is starting to connect with the diaphragm and deep breaths. If you're gonna do something, take a break every 30 minutes when you're working on your desk. As we see that our chest is collapsed like this, take a break every 30 minutes or every hour and do 5 to 10 very, very, very deep breaths. This way you're going to start expanding and you're going to start using all the muscles related to your breathing anatomy, and you're not going to let it start collapsing. Just keep it healthy, keep it open, keep it going as wide as you can. That's one of the advice. And the other one, start lowering it down and take some minutes to actually sit down and just breathe. It means that sometimes it feels like it's like doing nothing, like what the story you told me about Alexandra, that you were, let's do some breathing exercises. No, but you're not doing anything. You're doing the most important function that's keeping you alive. Just taking your time, pausing yourself, that we're going to talk in on the next episodes, that is going to talk about relaxation, and actually doing nothing is really important. But just sitting down and breathing as slow as you can at your own pace. It doesn't have to be the same for every person. Just start lowering, and a month later you'll notice that it's a little bit lower. But just taking your time and taking 10 minutes off your day to just actually breathe, you're massaging your inner organs, you're working your diaphragm, you're opening up your rib cage, you're doing the proper exchange, you're balancing oxygen input and carbon dioxide output, you're balancing all the biochemistry inside your body. So there are very simple things that actually do a lot for us. We don't even think it's actually happening because we don't see it right away. But if you see it in the long run, just doing this breath 5-10 minutes will change you in a way that you can't even imagine.
Wow. Well, that's amazing, Pepe, what you just said, and I gotta applaud this presentation that you did. It was like, to me, mind blowing. Like, I've always appreciated, listening to you. But thank you for this, and I'm already looking forward to next week a whole lot. We're gonna, if anybody has any questions for Pepe in the chat, or if you want to talk to him right now, it's a great time. But we're gonna conclude. Yes.
Like lately, I'm working a lot sitting. So this recommendation of breathing 5 to 10 times deeply every 30 minutes. Should we be standing up, or is it would that be the most proper thing, or should we be sitting?
We're gonna talk about it on the posture episode. But if you're gonna do it sitting, you can do it sitting. Just make sure you're moving your hips and you're swaying your body.
Okay.
Because when you're sitting down, also making sure the air goes down all the way to your stomach, so that your diaphragm fully expands. That's the important thing.
Walter had a question.
We miss you in Zippo. Get out of Ireland and come to Zippo.
The clear message for Tony.
Tony,
get out of Ireland. We can't hear you, Tony. You're muted. You have to find that unmute button. We can't hear you. We'd love to hear you, though.
I haven't. I found it. Oh, my God. Hi, Rick. I really wish I could be there right now. But listen, it's okay where I am. Things are good here.
Yeah.
I'll say hello to everybody in Zippo for you.
Do, please. And I'll see you next winter.
Walter, I can send you the presentation if you want.
All
Thanks.
right.
So any other questions?
Other than Sunday can't come any faster, can it? Already hyped for the next one. Guys, we'll see you on Tuesday. On Tuesday, I've got a hell of an adventure for you guys scheduled on Tuesday. I have a lot of notes. We're going to talk online security. I went through and I did a lot of research, and there was a post online. It was called 100 Tips for Your Online Security. And I'll tell you, 96% of those tips were bad. So I kept the 4 good ones, the ones that were actually good tips that you want to know. And we're going to talk about that next Tuesday. If you want to have better online security, not just passwords, guys. It's not just passwords. It's about understanding what it is. If you're interested in coming and talking about it, I'd be very happy to share it with you. I've got some great sources and some great material for you to read also, if you're interested in reading more about that. And like I said, if you want this presentation with Pepe, we can send it to you. No problem. So thanks for coming, and have a great Sunday. And thank you, Pepe, for this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Muchas gracias.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Adios, amigos.
See you later,
Very
Tony.
good.
Thanks for coming. See you later,
Stay
Walter.
well.
Yep.
Dankeschön. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Dankeschön.
bye, Germany.
Bitte. Is that what you say to Dankeschön? I don't know.
Dankeschön.
Finish
Bitteschön or something. How do you say de rien, De nada.
it. Bye.
Hey, good afternoon. Love you,
Amigos.
Mom. See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Ciao. Have a great day.
Pepe, ¿me mandas también a mí la presentación?
Claro que sí.
Gracias.
Excelente, yo también la quiero. Gracias.
Ok,
Gracias.
perfecto, Alicia.
Bye.
Chao.
Ciao.
Don't leave me, Pepe. Pepe, are you? You have to unmute yourself from the main one. Pepe?
Yeah.
Oh man, Pepe, you did such a fucking good job, man. Well done.
Yeah,